Hi, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Edwin Diaz. As you probably already know, I'm going to give you some tips and some more information in this lecture here. Now, I want you to remember that this is a crash course. This is not a complete guide into Vue.js or anything like that. This is meant just to get you up and running really fast with Vue.js. The objective here is to learn the basics, okay? So we can start implementing it right away into our projects. Now, let me give you some tips that I usually do to my students. Remember to make your goals, guys. I know this is a very short course and you can finish this in an hour or two, but remember to make your goals, okay? Even if you can finish it in an hour or two, go ahead and finish it, okay? Make that decision, and this goes for anything that you do in life. Make your decision and finish what you start. So you make your goals, make sure that your goals are realistic. Make a decision to do whatever it is that you need to do. And then once you get into it, finish it. Now, if you have any issues, post it in the discussions, guys. Just post it. Now, if you have any personal matters that you need to tell me, maybe you are recommending some type of improvement in the course, or you want to talk about other things, message me. I'm here. And you can also find me in my blog, edwindiaz.com, or message me at edwindiaz.com, or private message me, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Now, lastly, I want to thank you for joining me in this course. It means a lot to me. And if you have any issues, again, I'm here for you. Or if you have any questions. See you in the next lectures. Hi, welcome, my dear students. So, let's talk a little bit about Vue.js, what it is, and let me give you some history about it. So back a couple years ago, from recording, by the time I'm recording this video, from this time that I'm recording this video, applications were not that advanced. They were advanced, but not as much as they are today, and they keep getting advanced every day. We had an HTML file, maybe some CSS and JavaScript on our application on the browser, right? And most of the code were in the server. It was in the server. Okay, most of the complex stuff that we were doing, we let the server handle that and send back the response. But nowadays, we have a lot of that code that was in the server now in our browser, working with our application. So now that made things very disorganized for us as developers. It was just a mess, and it was very hard to maintain because we have so many JavaScript files all over the place with not a lot of tools to help us out. Our applications became slow, and then with time they become just very messy, okay? And very ugly, to be honest with you. It was not very good to code in JavaScript, trying to build applications using just JavaScript. It was just a mess. It was just very complicated. Now that's when applications like, frameworks like Angular, Ember, and now Vue.js came to the rescue. Let me put this in the slide right here so you can see it. In this course, of course, we're going to be talking about Vue.js, which is the lightest framework right now for, playing with JavaScript. Now, let me give you a little bit of background about Vue. So Vue was created by this guy named Ivan Yu. Just like you are my student, Ivan Yu. It was released in 2014 and is said to be a progressive framework, which means that you can just plug it in anywhere in your project, in your existing project, and it would just work and do whatever you want it to do. And then you can progressively grow your applications with it. Very, very, very nice, okay, and very advanced to play around with this. Now, unlike any other frameworks, you can locally create a file, okay, and locally reference that file, download your scripts, your Vue.js scripts, and you can start playing around with it right away, just with a script tag. Or you can just use a CDN link from any other website out there and reference it. And you can start playing around right away without downloading anything else. Okay, if you're building some simple features and even some amazing features that was really hard with jQuery or even by using vanilla JavaScript, it's going to become super easy with Vue.js. Now, if you want more advanced stuff, we can do that. It has the capability of the CLI, which is the command line interface, and we can create advanced single file applications very easily. And it's going to help us have all the tools necessary for us to build it with ease. Now, I'm going to show you how to do that in this course. Now, here's some of the features I like about Vue. Super fast. Guys, this thing is fast. It's very lightweight, so I don't have to download a whole bunch of things to have a really cool application. And it has great core libraries and a beautiful ecosystem. You can look it up in the documentation. You're going to see what I mean. Now, here's, it has the structure of a very similar framework like Angular, because, the guy had the idea from Angular. Even you worked in Google before in a project doing things with AngularJS. And, the thought came to his mind, why not build something or extract some of this functionality of Angular to a more simplistic thing? And that thing became Vue.js. Okay, so he got the idea from Angular. So as you can see, Vue.js has a very, very similar thing to what Angular, Ember, or React is. We separate our components, and each of those components have their own HTML, CSS, and even JavaScript code. Okay? Remember that it was designed with a very simplistic approach and a progressive approach. Very adaptable, very flexible, very fast. Okay? Remember, the approach is the most simplistic as possible, so that way you can concentrate on building your feature, not having to deal with tools or anything like that. Okay? Now, if you guys are ready to start learning Vue.js, or Vue if you want to call it that, let's get started. Welcome, my dear students. So let's go ahead and start building a Vue application. First, let's download it real quick. It's going to be super easy. Let's go to vuejs.org. We're going to click on get started here, and we're going to find a link here. It says development version or the production version. I like this development version when we are developing because it gives us some console warnings, which is pretty awesome. Now, there are other ways of downloading Vue.js. You can also use a Node Package Manager, NPM, Node, to download it. It's pretty cool, but this is the simplest way to actually download it and use it. Now, in my desktop here, I don't know if you notice, I have a folder, a Vue folder that I created, and I also have a editor open here, which I have that folder open there. Okay, in which I have that folder. I'm gonna click here and create a new file. It's gonna be called index.html. As a matter of fact, let's press enter here and let's build a HTML markup here real quick. We don't need this, but it's good to have it. As a matter of fact, I'm going to delete all this, and I'm gonna delete all that like this, and it should work. Okay. So now that I have Vue.js here, I'm going to create a script tag because I'm about to write some JavaScript. Okay, so let's put that here. I hope you can see what I'm doing, guys. Okay, so to create a Vue app, the first thing is to link or bind the JavaScript with HTML here on top. Okay, so I'm gonna create a div here with an ID of app like this. Okay, and that's going to be my hook. So I'm gonna actually put that here. So we're gonna be using JavaScript to bind. We're gonna be using this code that we're gonna be writing here to bind JavaScript with HTML. Okay, so now the first thing is to instantiate the Vue object, or a Vue instance actually, and we're gonna say new Vue. Now keep in mind that this is coming from this file right here. Okay, now we are going to be passing an object to that new instance. Okay, and in that object we have a couple of properties that exist. Okay, in this property EL for the element, we could link whatever we want. We're going to be using this as a CSS selector, and we're going to be linking the app, which is this div right here. Okay, so that's it. We have linked our JavaScript code here, or Vue, to our HTML. Now to make this work, so you can see it that it is working, I'm going to go ahead and use another property called data. Okay, and this property is an object, and in here inside this object I got a couple properties. I can define any properties I want. This property already exists. This is something that is built into the framework, but the properties that I'm going to create right now are going to be my property, custom made properties. I'm going to create a property called message, and I'm just going to say hello like this. I'm going to give it a value. Okay, so I hope you see what I'm doing there. Super simple. Now here, the way we use that data here is by using string interpolation, and we're going to talk a little bit about that in the next lectures. But in string interpolation works like this: 2 curly brackets and 2 curly brackets, just like that, and in between here you use the data that you have in your Vue model. Okay, this is called the Vue model here. Okay, so now if I save this file with Control S or Command S, okay, in a Mac, and I view it, I'm gonna click here, you're gonna see hello there. Okay, see how simple that is? And that's it. Now if I change this again here and I save it, come back here and refresh, you can see that that reflects the changes there. And that's it, guys. You see how easy it was to actually create our first Vue app, and this is just a small app. Okay, in the next lecture we're going to learn a lot more about Vue, so keep tuned for that. See you in the next lecture. Welcome back, my dear students. So in this lecture we're going to learn a little more about string interpolation, something that we did on the last lecture for a few seconds there. Okay, so let's get to it. So I changed my text editor for an IDE, which I use all the time, called WebStorm, but you're welcome to keep using your brackets editor. Nothing else is going to change on this course. As a matter of fact, they're both almost the same. We're going to have a left side for structure for our folders and files, and a right hand side here for our code. Okay, so I want you to go ahead and do a save as on Index, and we're going to call this new file string interpolation, like this. Okay, simple as that. So make sure you switch to that file, and we're gonna do a couple more things here with string interpolation. We saw that we were able to bind data from our component here, from our new instance or Vue instance or Vue model, to our HTML, and that was great stuff, right? I mean, guys, I enjoyed it a lot. But there's a little bit more things that we can do with string interpolation. Okay, remember that we're just getting data from here to here, displaying it. So I'm going to create another property here called number. As a matter of fact, I'm going to create the property down below here in my next line. Number, I'm going to give it a value of 10. Now I'm gonna go here real quick and I'm gonna try to display that like that. And then if I switch to my browser and I refresh, let's open this up. There we go. You can see that value there. But what if I wanted to add some type of number to that? Let's go ahead and try that out to see if it works. Refresh, and you can see now that the value has changed. Good stuff, guys. Good stuff. I'm going to give this a variable here, and I'm going to call this VM for view model. Okay, so that way I can use this. Now it's telling me that my JavaScript version is not supported. This is because my WebStorm does not know about ES6 yet, and I have to give it the JavaScript language that I want to use for my syntax highlighting. Okay, now it should know about that. Okay, good stuff. If you guys have not taken my ES6 course, I have a really good ES6 TypeScript and Angular course, just in case you guys want to jump into those technologies as well. So anyway, we have this variable here that we can use to play around with our values here. So we can inspect our DOM and open our console. If I had it here, that would be nice. I thought I had it. There we go, right here. Okay, and what I can do here is really simple. I can grab the VM and I can grab the message and I can assign a different value to it. I can say Edwin, enter, and it says not defined VM. All right, so what I need to do is I need to refresh because I created this property. Make sure that you refresh and save the file. So let's do this again. VM message Edwin, enter, and you can see that that changes. Okay, so this is a way of actually playing around with your code. Okay, good stuff. Okay, so what else can we do with string interpolation? Well, let me show you. We can also we can compare values here. So I'm going to create another property. Let's create a property called isActive, and let's set that to a Boolean value true. Okay, you can see it right here. Then here we are going to say if isActive. I'm going to use a ternary operator. If it's active, okay, is true, then I'm going to display isActive. I want you to display isActive. Else, I want you to display is not active. Something like that. We'll come back here and refresh. And there we go. Okay, you can see that it is active. What if we set that property, VM is active, to false? Enter. You can see that that changes automatically. Now, what you see here is reactivity. You're seeing this every time we change something here. You can see it immediately happening here. Okay, that's pretty awesome stuff. Okay. Now, if I refresh, of course, that goes to the same value again until I make the changes in my code. Refresh. There we go. Awesome stuff, right, guys? All right. So there's a couple more things that I can do here. I can go ahead and play around and create a little more complex code here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab message. I'm going to use a JavaScript split function to split it. Then I'm going to reverse it using the reverse function. And then I'm going to join everything together again. And I'm going to save it. And now if I refresh, you can see that message now is all the way reverse. HEELLO. Okay. Welcome back, my dear students. I hope you guys are really excited. So today we're going to be learning a little bit more about data binding. As a matter of fact, this is the first lecture about data binding. Even though we string interpolation, we did a little bit of data binding by kind of, binding our data here to our app, but this is called a string interpolation. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a save as on index. I'm gonna call this data binding.html like this. I want you to follow me, guys. Okay, this is super important that you do, so that way you learn this faster. And inside that data binding.html file, I'm gonna start showing you, demonstrating you what we're talking about with data binding. So let's say, for example, that you have a link here, and you have some type of property here with a link address. It's called the URL. That's the property, and let's just delete this message. The address is going to be HTTPS, and this is going to be my personal blog, edwindiaz.com. Okay, and you want it to actually output it right here, and you would do something like this. You think you could do something like that, right? We can use string interpolation there. We can say URL. And we come back here, we double click on that file, and we see that it is working here, but when we click it, it gives us some weird address. And don't worry about this localhost here. This is my personal built-in server that I got with my IDE. When you double click on your file, you should be able to, you know, see that error as me, like this, with all these percentages and numbers in the URL string there. So this is not working. Okay, when you are doing things like this, you might want to do bbind, which is binding that attribute, that HTML attribute, to your data here. Now, mine is highlighting this in red because I have no support right now. I don't know what's going on with my plugin, but it's not, this is bbind is not working. So I'm gonna use a shorthand, which is available as well. You just take the bbind off and leave the colon right here, href, and that's the same thing. Okay, so if I refresh, you can see this is not gonna work now. I just have to take this out there and refresh, and now if I click on this, you can see that it is going to take me to that website. So it is working now. Okay, so that's one way of doing data binding. Now remember that you can bind to any HTML attribute that you want. So if you want to bind to, let's say, an H1 that has an ID of, I don't know, bots, or this is going to be some dynamic ID and you have it in a data attribute here, and you say dynamic ID. Okay, that could be any value. It could be maybe a 3, 4, 3000, whatever. Here you can display it so you can see it. Let's come down here and write that ID down, that name, dynamic ID. I'm gonna make it 30 for my age. And then I'm a little bit older than that. And let's go ahead and go back here. Let's refresh, and we can see that it does say 30. But if I check that data attribute, I'm gonna do inspect element by doing right click and inspect. Let's see what we get in that data attribute. We got just text here, dynamic attribute. The value is text. Let's bind it by doing a colon, and remember that it's the same thing as doing b-bind. Okay, let's refresh now. And now you can see that that value changed to 30, which is the same value we got down here. Okay, so with bbind, or the shorthand colon here, you can bind any attribute of your HTML with your apt data, which is really cool. Okay, thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next lecture. Welcome back, my dear students. So in today's lecture, we're going to learn about two-way data binding, which is going to be really awesome. Okay, so let's go to the index. I'm going to do a save as here, and I'm going to say two-way data binding.html. Okay, let's open that up, and let's see how we can create a two-way data binding. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a template here called Bootstrap, just because I want to make things a little nicer. Okay, and I'm just going to use the Bootstrap CDN, guys. just like this, and I'm gonna use the CSS. I'm gonna copy the whole HTML link here. It's just a HTML and CSS framework library to make your code look better. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to do bring it up here in the head and delete this cross origin stuff like this. There we go. And let's put this all the way in the bottom here. Okay, great stuff. Now if I put a div container class, we should see some margin on the side. Okay, let's go back to our file. Let's see. Even our text should look a little different. Let's test this by putting some type of class on this hello class. Let's just call it BTN primary or something like that. Let's see. Yeah, that's working. Okay, you see, it looks better. All right. So now that we got Bootstrap, let's play around with some two-way data binding, okay? So I'm going to create a form inside my app here. And this form is going to have an input. And this input is going to have a class of form control. And I'm going to I'm going to give this input a class of sits. This is just gonna make it smaller than what it is going to be, because if you leave it the way I was going to leave it, this was gonna make my input really big. Okay, right now it just stays on one side, as you can see. If I make it, see, stays half of the screen. Actually, it's a 12 grid library system, grid system. So now here, if I wanted to do two-way data binding with message, okay, I'm going to show you how you can do this. All you have to do is do vModel, use a vModel directive. Okay, remember these are called directives. These are like attributes that has some type of functionality in the background. Okay, that's what directives are. We're gonna talk a little bit more about directives later on, but vModel, and then here I can bind to that message property, and right below here I can see right now. If I refresh, you can see it in both places. Let's take this out from here. Make sure you save your files. Now when I type in something here, Edwin Diaz, you can see it right below. The magic of Vue.js, guys. Awesome. So we are binding data, okay? And the best part is that this works everywhere. So if I do VM message and I do this here, enter. Oops, my VM is actually not defined. So let's make sure that that property is defined there. That variable, let VM, and let's refresh it, make sure that our application is detecting that. Let's come back here and let's just say enter, and you can see that in both places it changes in both places. So with that directive ng model, okay, our data is linked both ways. We got communication from the outside to the inside and from the inside to the outside. Pretty awesome stuff, right? From the outside to the inside, from the inside to the outside. Two-way data binding, guys. There's a lot more things that you can do. In the next lecture, I'll give you another example. Thank you so much. Hi, welcome back, my dear students. So in this lecture, I want to give you another example of a two-way data binding, okay? I think you're going to like this lecture. So in this lecture here, you can download a file that I got for you, okay? And so that way it's easier for you. You don't have to write all that HTML. Okay, so let's go inside this two-way data binding guy here, and you don't have to worry about this. I'm gonna have that file available for you, but I do have to copy my stuff down. Okay, all right. So if I go ahead and open this file, actually we have to do a save as. I have to do a save as, two-way data binding, and name that number 2. Okay, and inside here I have to paste that piece of code that I'm gonna give you, and that's just gonna be something like that. Okay, some inputs. All right. So what I want to do is I want to bind all the values here together, and when I take them off, I want the values to go away, so that way when we want to send this to some type of database or something, they all go together. Now we can do this in PHP, you know, creating a form and, you know, an array inside the name attribute, but with Vue it's a lot simpler than that. Okay, so I'm gonna make this smaller so you can see it. Let's come back here and let's see how we can do this. So inside the input here of each of these elements, I'm gonna put V, and if you said V model, you guessed it, V model, and I'm gonna name it options. Now I'm going to do the same thing for all my inputs. Paste it there, and I'm gonna paste it there. And now here in my instance, I'm gonna create a property called options, and I'm gonna set it to an empty array, just like that. Okay, simple. And in here, okay, all I have to do there is grab, use string interpolation and do options. If I wanted to show my options that I'm selecting, and I'm gonna join all of them, okay, with a comma and then empty strings. Now if I refresh here and I click on this, it says option 1, option 2, and option 3. Where is this value coming from? Well, remember that we have a value field here, value 1, value 2, and value 3. Okay, pretty awesome stuff, guys, pretty awesome. Now of course you can bind that options to this guy right here as well. Okay, see that? Get the same thing above. Really awesome, guys, really awesome. Now keep this in mind. Look what I'm doing here. Here they all go without the space. Here they got the space. That's because I'm using options.join, which I can also use up here, right? Actually I can't, because I'm binding this with the V model here. Okay, now you can go ahead and take this further and bind the value of this input, okay, and use data binding there, but I'm not going to do that. I wanted to show you that this is possible, and this is pretty cool. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Welcome back, my dear students. So let's get a little bit more knowledge about directives real quick. You can also go to the documentation, find a lot more information, but directives are pretty easy. We already have been doing a couple of them, right? So let's go ahead and create a file here, a save as from index.html. Let's call this directives. Let's go to that file. And we already seen a directive. I forgot where I put it. This is a directive right here. This h1 anchor tag right here. And we had a, I believe was a URL. All right, let's copy that right here. So that was a really cool directive that we learned. Let's come back here, and that's not working. That's because it's breaking down here. We forgot that colon, the comma. There we go. So that's working. But we also have another directive that could help us hook into events. And let's create one right here. Let's just say click. And here we could access the v-on directive. Okay, and pass in an event. Okay, and we can pass in a click or whatever event we want that is available in JavaScript. You're welcome to search on that, okay, for events. But and we can do whatever we want in here. We can call that method, which we haven't got to that yet. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that property, which we don't have here. I'm going to create a property real quick. I'm going to call it number. I'm going to assign the value to 10. And we can grab that property, increase it. And let's actually look at it while we increase it. I'm going to do a string interpolation here. And when I click on it, you can see that it does increase. So we're adding 1 to it every time we're doing plus plus. All right. We can also do this backwards, okay? And we can just say decrease here. Just giving you an example, guys. No biggie. Remember that, see that? It's going down. This v-on, we have a shorthand for this, okay? So instead of doing this, which this is for binding elements, we have one that is an @ symbol like that. Okay, that works the same. Let's take the calling out. Refresh. You can see that it still works. Okay. Now we also have modifiers for directives. Let me create a form real quick, and don't worry, this is not going to take much. And a button with a type of submit, and of course it's going to be called submit or something. Refresh. We got this button right here. What I want to do is I want to increase the value here as well every time I click on this. But now if you notice, this is actually refreshing the page. We don't want that to happen. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to attach a submit event, and I'm going to use a modifier to prevent that default behavior. And I'm going to grab the number and I'm going to increase it. Now if I refresh, you can see that that number increases, which is really awesome. Okay. So this is a modifier. They do have modifiers depending on the event that you're using. Okay. Pretty awesome, guys. And that's it for this lecture. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next one. All right, welcome back, my dear students. So in this lecture, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at how we can do styles, inline styles with Vue.js, which is going to be awesome. So I'm going to grab the index again. I'm going to do a save as, and we're going to be doing this a lot, guys. So get in the habit of doing this. I'm going to be calling this binding inline styles.html. Great. Okay, let's just come back here and take all this out. Let's go to that file, okay? All right. So to bind styles, it's super simple. I'm going to show you. So what I'm going to do is right here, let's actually create some type of div, empty div here, and I'm going to display the message. Just as simple as that. Okay. You might want to put a space here so that way. Okay. Make sure you double click on that file and you open it up. All right. So let's say we want to do some inline styles to this using Vue. Dynamic colors, guys. That's what we're going to be doing here. Okay. So I'm going to create a, and let's do this after the message. Put a comma here. I'm going to create a font size dynamically. And I'm going to set this to 30. Just like that. And I'm going to come here. And I want to style this, okay? So I'm gonna bind the style, okay, by doing colon style. Remember that shorthand, right? And then I'm gonna pass an object right here, like that with the curly brackets. And I'm gonna say, well, I want to add a color, okay? So I'm gonna add a color here of red, this is something that I don't have down here yet. Okay, that is going to be static. So I put the quotes there, and I'm going to put a comma here because I'm going to add something that is, okay, dynamic right here, font size. And font size, I'm going to put a colon there because it's an object, and I'm going to pass in the font size right here. Now, one thing to keep in mind, this font size is what we have natively in HTML in the style property. Okay, you're gonna see something like this, font size. Okay, as a matter of fact, you can look it up, CSS properties. Okay, and font size, it looks like that, but when we need to, what we need to do is make a camel case. Okay, remember that you got CSS property and then you got JavaScript styling. Okay, JavaScript style properties. Okay, so there is a lot of JavaScript right here. Font size, font weight, font size right here. So remember that we're using JavaScript, guys, so you need to research what what property works for your JavaScript instead of CSS. So this is the JavaScript version of that styling. So font size, and this is the dynamic data that property that I got down here. But we need to add pixels to it, right? So I'm gonna do a little concatenation here. I'm gonna add px to it. Okay. So now if I go back here and I refresh, you can see that that looks even a little bigger, right? If we inspect it, you can see that that property the color is red, the font size is 30 pixels. Pretty awesome stuff, right? All right. So if I come here, let's create a variable here and let's call this VM. Let's refresh and let's go to our console again, and you can inspect the element and go to console, guys. Okay, but I have the key. There we go. I got the keyboard key for my Mac to do that. So I'm gonna grab the VM. Okay, I'm gonna grab the font size and I'm gonna assign it to 100. Let's do 100 pixels. Let's do 100 pixels. Oops. Or I might. I'm grabbing the wrong property. I don't need this. I just need 100. VM is not defined. Okay, sorry about that. We need to, sometimes you need to refresh this a couple times. All right. So font size 100. Enter, and you can see that that changes to that size. Okay. So sorry about that, guys. Now that this is working, let's go ahead and give you another example real quick on this lecture. Let's do an object. We can pass a whole object to our style. So I'm gonna do style here. Actually, it's this way. Okay. Now we did pass an object here, but we can pass an object from here. So if we had an object, for example, style object like this, with some properties, we can pass the whole thing to that style up there. So let's go ahead here and let's just say I want the color to be, I don't know, blue, and I want the font size to be, let's make it enjoyable, 10 pixels. Okay, but let's put it in this 10 pixels like that, and I want to pass that whole thing there. Come back here, we don't even need curly brackets there. And what I'm going to do is, this is also going to be a message. And let's refresh. Let's do another refresh. And you can see that that is kind of working, right? Let's do 30 pixels. Refresh a couple times. And there we go. All right. Really awesome. Let's take this a little further. And let's create another style object. And I'm going to call this object number 2. Okay. And I'm going to change this with yellow. I'm going to change the text to 100 just to make it more noticeable. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to pass an array here. Okay, so I'm going to use square brackets like that. And I got object number 1, which is of course style object, and style object number 2, which is style object number 2. I'm going to refresh a couple times here. And now look at what happened. Really awesome, right? Now what's happening here is that style object number 2 is overriding some of the styles from style object number 1. Okay, it's overriding color, which is already here, and font size. Okay? All right. So I think you're good with these examples that I gave you. And let's take a look at classes. Next. Welcome back, my dear students. I hope you guys are having a great day. Today we're going to be learning about class styling or class binding. It's going to be pretty awesome. All right. So let's get to it. Let's create a file. I'm going to do a save as on index like I do 99.9% of the time. I'm going to call this class binding and styling or something like that. How about that? .html. I don't know if I spelled that correctly, but we'll find out another time. All right. So let's say, for example, and let's double click on that file. Make sure that you do if you're not using an IDE like me. And let's see what we got. All right. So let's say, for example, we want to style, and this is what they're good for. This class binding and class styling is good for, you know, putting a class there when something is happening in your code. The same thing with styles, okay? But with classes, they are more useful. In my approach, personal approach, classes are more useful because you can just define the class, and we're gonna do that right now. Okay, we can define the class up here. Let's say a class of active, and put a color of green. Okay, and then do a not active class. And we're going to put a color of red or something like that. Okay. So let's just make this tight as possible. We can even put it in one line if we wanted to. Okay. All right. I don't recommend this, but you're welcome to do it. All right. So if I were to add this class here and I refresh, you can see that that changes to green. Good stuff, right? And if I change this, I put the not active one, that changes to red. Good stuff. Let's just add a class that we don't have there because I want to show you something later. Static or something. Let's take that back to black. So if we had a user, let's just actually change this for name, and the name of this user was Edwin, like me. Really cool guy, I know him. Make sure that we change this too. Okay, and we want to apply some type of color to indicate that this user is active. Maybe this was some type of round circle or something like that, but in this case it's going to be a name. We can apply a property here, say, hey, listen, if this user is active, we're going to apply the Boolean value true to that property. And here we can use, bbind class, okay? And I'm using the shorthand, by the way. And I can pass in some type of object to create some type of expression here to, test to see if that user is active. So I'm going to communicate with this HTML element to my JavaScript, right? Through this HTML to my JavaScript. So I'm going to say here, I want you to put the active class. If is active, it's present, like that. So now, if I come here and I refresh, you can see that that works. Now, if I make this false, this should stay black, right? Awesome. Let's make that true, okay? So it stays green. And what if I wanted to include maybe another one, like an else statement or something, or test another expression? Well, I could say something like this. If, okay, if it's not active, let's actually create another property here. Let's just go ahead and write it down here first. This is the not active right here. Include the not active, okay, property class if this user if it's not is active. Okay, something like that. And if I do false and I click and I refresh, you can see that that is applied automatically. I was going to do another logic here, but I think this was easy enough for you guys to understand it. This exclamation means the opposite of true, which is false. Okay, so we are including the not active. If is active, is false. Okay, of course you can flip this around however you want. You can also create some type of other property that makes more sense. Has arrow, and put that to true, and you could come back here and you can say if that property is true, then apply the red class, which it should stay the same. Okay, so that's one way of doing that. Let's actually do another example real quick here. I like to make my course lectures small, but in this case, oh, and another thing before I forget, let's inspect this and let me show you. This class binding leaves the other classes intact, and this is one of the reasons I left that static class there. Look at the static is there. So it doesn't remove it or anything, it just adds classes to it. Okay, it uses that JavaScript add class. Okay, commands. So let's come back here and create another to show you another functionality that I like to use. You can also include classes with an array like this. You can bind them, okay? So you can use a whole expression here, not just like this, because like this looks a little weird and it might be a little hard for you guys to grasp. For those of you that have used ternary operator, you can do something like this. If it's active, include active, else include not active. Okay, and of course you can pass in the name here again, and you can see that that works the same there, but we're using square brackets now, and it's easier for those of you that know this syntax. This is like an if statement in a way. Okay, if is active, include active, else is the colon, if it's not, include not active. It's shorter, and for me it's a lot simpler than doing something like this, right? Anyway, thank you so much for watching, guys. I'm going to leave it like this, and I'll see you on the next lectures. Welcome back, my dear students. So in this lecture, we're going to be learning about the event binding. It's going to be pretty awesome, okay? So let's start. In the index.html, actually, you know what? Let's actually use one of these files that we were using before. Let's use this binding styles, binding inline styles.html. I'm going to call this event binding. Event binding and then styles. There we go. Make sure that you go to that same file. I'm going to delete this object right here. Make this a little smaller there. We're not going to need actually the style object either. So all we're going to leave is the font size there. Okay. And I'm going to leave this there. And I'm going to create two buttons. But first we're going to create one and then we'll create the other one. Let's add a click event here. And now the way that we define methods in our view model, okay, is by creating this property or accessing this property called methods. This property is going to have an object as a value. And inside here, you start creating your functions, your methods. And you can name it whatever you want. I'm going to call it increase font, like this. Guys, remember that you can also use this syntax. I'll show you right now. Okay. Increase font and then pass in some type of function. Okay. Console.log, and I'm just gonna say hi here just to show you that this works, okay, before we do anything else. And then I'm gonna use the name of that method, increase font. I'm gonna pass it right here, okay, and that's just gonna console something out right now, so it's not gonna do much. Let's actually make sure that we do have some type of words there, so we can see what's going on. Open your console, and if I click that, you can see that it says, you probably can't see it much. When I click it, it says HI, high, okay, it's just separating it. This ng styles here is messing it up right now. Okay, all right, so that's working. Now let's actually do it the way that I like to do it, by not using that and using the new syntax stuff like that. Let's refresh it a couple times, make sure that that's working, increase it. It does say the same thing. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab this font size property and I'm gonna increase it. I want to increase my font every time I click on this button. I want to increase this. So I'm gonna make this small now. So refresh, and that goes to being small. And I want to increase this guy. Okay, remember that when we're doing this, it does increases it everywhere. So I'm gonna do this. That keyword this means my view model. Okay, so I'm gonna access something from my view model, which is called font size, and that something is a property right now. I'm gonna access that, and I'm gonna do ++ just to increase just one pixel at a time. I'm gonna refresh, and I'm gonna do this, and you can see that is working beautifully. Okay, look at that, guys. Awesome, right? Now we're not gonna leave our users hanging with just increasing the buttons, increasing the font. Why don't we just make it so that they can decrease it as well? Okay, and this is gonna call another function or method, and that one is decrease, like this. Okay, and this is just gonna minus it. Okay, so big, small, big, small. All right, guys, I hope you get the point. Okay, remember that you can always hook this up to maybe a input and hook it up with a V model there and type it in and increase the font size that way if you want to. You can play around with it a lot. By the time you finish this course, you're gonna know enough to start creating your own projects, which is gonna be really awesome. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next lectures. Welcome back, my dear students. So in this lecture, we're gonna learn about conditional rendering, okay? Or control structure, or if statements, whatever you want to call it. It's functionality that allows us to hide or show data depending on a condition. All right. So in index.html, do a save as and call this conditional rendering, or call this if statements if you want, guys. And even if I make a mistake, I'm not deleting this lecture because I already deleted like 3 lectures. I don't know why they're coming up all messed up. I guess I got to drink my coffee. Anyway, so if I don't make any mistakes, I stop being myself, guys. And lately I've been trying to be a little perfect, and that's not good because we're not perfect. But anyway, so I'm going to change this property, and let's make sure that we are in that file that we like to be on. Let's create a property here called name, because I want to give you an example with the name. Plus, I like this name that I'm going to be writing now. Do you guys guess the name that I'm going to write in this property? It starts with an E. All right. It's my name. You got it. Good job. You get an A in the test, okay? Just because you got this. See, I give you A's really quickly. All right. So let's say, for example, our user is not active, and we don't want to show his name on our website, right? We don't want to because it's not active. Let's make sure that this is good here. You see? I already made a mistake there, and I'm going to leave the lecture. Yes, for those of you that don't like that. All right. So we use the VIF here, and we can say something like, hey, listen, I'm going to make another property here. If the is active, if the user is active, we're going to show him. If not, we're not going to show him. So we put a Boolean value in this property, and we can test it right here. It's active. Of course, this is not going to show. You know that already, right? But this is how we do it. And now, simple, guys. You don't have to overthink it. We also have a VElse. Pretty awesome, right? We don't need to pass any arguments there. We just got to say something like, hey, listen, no user. Make sure that we don't make a mistake this time. Look at that. No user. And guess what? We also have another VElse if. Oh, Vue.js. I am in love. I hope he's a woman, not a guy, right? I'm saying I'm in love with Vue.js, right? So here we could, if we wanted to, try to see if the name is equal to something. If the name is equal to Edwin, we can say something like, hey Edwin, what's up? Something like that. I don't know if I'm writing what's up right. Hey Edwin, what's up? I'm going to refresh here, and okay, this is not working. Why is this not working? Oh, because the name is not as Edwin. It's Edwin Diaz right here. All right, so I'm going to put a space right here, and then I'm going to go ahead and do refresh. Oh, man. Look at that, guys. I want you to clap, put your hands in the ceiling, and say, party. We got it. So I hope you guys got it real quick. And that's how we do conditional rendering. So if you look at this, now you know what it is. Thank you so much. I hope you had a good laughter, and I'll see you in the next lectures. Hi, welcome back, my dear students. So in this lecture, what I want to do is I want to show you how we loop in Vue.js, how we do list rendering. So I'm going to do a save as on this file, conditional rendering, and I'm going to call this list rendering, just like this. Okay. Make sure that you are inside that file. I just changed it. So with list rendering in Vue.js, it's super simple using Vue list rendering. So let's go ahead and create some data so that way we can render through it or loop through it. I'm going to create a post array just like this, empty array for now. And up here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some type of list, unordered list, and I'm going to give it just one list item. So the idea is this: we need to multiply our data, or loop through our data, and repeat the list items. We don't need to repeat the UL, right? The unordered list. We just need to repeat the list items. So here's where we use our directive, v-for, okay? But before we do that, let's go ahead and create some data so that way we can loop through it. So I got this empty array, and I'm going to have an ID. I'm going to have a title, and I'm going to have some type of body. Okay, just like that. Let me just put some values in here. And the title would be post 1. And maybe we have some type of words here. Let's put a comma here as well. So let's copy this guy. All right. So ID number 2, 3, and 4. Actually, that's okay. There we go. So now here we go and we use v-for, okay? And we say post. This is a dynamic variable that Vue.js is creating for us when we do this. And we say in, this is a keyword that must be there, and post is the array down here, is this data, okay? Now we got to give Vue a key, another attribute. This is a built-in directive that lets Vue know the identifier of our data. And in this case, our identifier is going to be the ID of each post. This just gives Vue more control and, you know, helps it individualize each of these objects. Okay, so it just helps with processing a lot. So now that we have that, we can display our data, and I'm just going to display the post title just to give you an example here. Okay, now we open our browser. I'm going to show you right now. As you can see, we have a loop. Okay, of course you want to organize this maybe in a table or something like that. And if you had a table, for example, like this, you might want to multiply your rows. Okay, just to give you an example. So this is how we loop through data in Vue.js. Thank you so much, guys, and I'll see you in the next lectures. Welcome back, my dear students. So in this lecture, we're going to learn about computed properties. Now, there are times when you want to create some type of complex code right here, and you want to take it down to your JavaScript. You can use methods or you can use computed properties. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a save as here, and I'm going to do computed properties. Here we go. Hopefully I'm spelling it correctly. If I'm not, guys, forgive me. All right, so let's grab this code from a string interpolation here, and let's place it right here, and let's make sure that it is working. There we go. So let's look at how we can create computed properties. Right at below the data, I'm going to create or input another property called computed. It's going to be an object. And all we have to do here is give it a name, just like we do with methods, like that. And all this is going to be doing is returning some type of value. Okay, you can come down here, you can return this. Remember that we have to refer to this as that message, because we are inside our element, our app or view model. Okay, now to get the same functionality, all we got to do is refer to this name. We don't need the parentheses. Refresh, now refer. There we go, guys. Super simple to create computed properties, okay? Remember to tighten up your code a little bit. Okay, make your code clean and nice. Welcome back, my dear student. So, in this lecture, we're going to learn about watchers. So, there are times when we need to keep an eye or we need to watch certain properties, certain stuff that's happening in our application or view model, right? With watches, we can just do that. For example, let's actually go ahead and create a file real quick before we get into examples, right? So let's do this one. Let's call this watcher.html, okay? And let's say, for example, we have a property here called isActive. Let me take this out from here. All right. So it's active, and I'm gonna set this equal to active, just the keyword, the word. And here, let's say we have a name, Edwin Diaz. And what I'm gonna do here is I'm going to say, well, if it's active equal to active, I want to display user is active or is active. I know this seems a little confusing, but just stay tuned, okay? Stay there. And if it's not, then we're just gonna say not active, okay? Just trust me, this is gonna work, okay? Okay, it says Edwin Diaz not active, right? So that's pretty cool. Actually, active is with a V. There we go. And now if I do refresh, it says Edwin Diaz is active. Okay. So let's say, for example, we have this property, and I could easily write a Boolean value here, but I wanted to actually write this because I'm going to show you an example of something later on. Let's say, for example, we have a user that is registering in our app online, and as soon as they register, we send them an email to register. As soon as they register, they click the email, they go back to our site, our app, and then we go ahead and validate the user and turn this property into active. Right now it's not active. Okay, so the user is not active. Let's refresh. But when they click on that link from the email, they get activated. But we also want to send back an email to the user congratulating them or thanking them for registering in our app, for activating their account. How can we keep a watch over this value right here? It would be nice that, when we switch this to active, that we can send back the user an email. A functionality is activated once this switches. It would be nice if we can get a functionality. How can we do that? Well, with watchers. With watchers, you can use this property right here called watch. If I can spell it right, that would be nice. And it's an object. And inside here, you just use the same name as a property because you want to keep an eye or a watch for this. And you're going to execute a function as soon as something changes in that property. Okay? You can do whatever you want inside the function. I'm just going to be sending a message. We're going to make believe that we're going to be sending the user an email. Sending an email. So, right now, the user is not active. But as soon as the user is active, watch what's going to happen. Let's go ahead and use a variable name here to control our view model. And let's refresh. Right now I'm gonna do VM is active. I'm gonna set this to active. Enter, and you can see that immediately something changes. I'm executing what's inside this function right here. I'm keeping an eye open for this guy. I'm watching it. But not only that, we can also access the value of that property, whatever that value is at that time. So I can create any variable I want there, and I can concatenate it right here to show you guys. New value. Okay? Are you seeing this? I take it from here and put it right there. Now, let's refresh this again. And now the user is not active. When I make him active, I'm sending an email, and at the same time, I'm accessing that property value. This so you can see it better. Enter. Right there. Okay? There we go. Look at the new value right here. So that's what a watcher is. Simple. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next lecture. Welcome back, my dear students. This course is getting exciting by the minute because right now we are about to learn about components, which is pretty cool. In most of these frameworks out there right now, Vue.js, Angular, Reactive, it's all about components. It's all about keeping some of our data in a separate way, in components. Each component could have their own functionality, their own scripts, their own styles, you name it, they have it, their own templates, basically their own HTML. And this is what it's all about with Vue.js. Okay? We can have our own components. And I'm going to demonstrate to you the syntax of it and how useful it is. So I'm going to go ahead and call this components.html. Okay, and let's go to that component, and I didn't do a save as on that index, guys. Okay, just keep in mind that that index, okay, was supposed to be the computer, the watcher right here. This was supposed to be, okay, I'm just gonna take all this code, make sure that my index is clean and small like it was before. Okay, all right, I just realized that, so make sure that this IDE, every time I do a save as, it doesn't switch me to the file it's supposed to be switching me to. So that's one of the reasons why sometimes I might override my index, which I love very much. Anyway, so okay, where were we? All right. I had to pause the video because I really blacked out. All right. So in components, this is not what I want. I want my index in components right here. And I'm going to show you how to register a global component, okay, which is going to be pretty cool. So right here we have our instance, okay, our VM or view model. And now it's time for us to register some type of component. And we do this by accessing this view.component like this. Okay, now you're going to give your component some type of element name. Let's say, for example, I'm creating a component about posts like this. Okay, and then the second parameter here that we're going to give our component method here would be the type of data, well, not data, the type of metadata that we want in that component. For example, I can give my component a template. I'm going to use backticks to give it some data. Okay, and I'm going to say hello here. And now, if I come to my app up here and I say post like that, you see this? This name becomes this tags up here. Okay, now if I go and render this, you can see that it says hello. And if I change this, you can see that we are changing that file. Okay, so look how easy it was. We still have our view model here with data and whatever, but we can always go ahead and create separate components. And guess what? We can keep this anywhere we want. We don't even have to have this template here. Later on, I'll show you how to create other things with it. Okay? So this is how we create components. In the next lecture, we're going to talk a little bit more about components. See you then. Welcome back, my dear students. So in this lecture here, I want to explain a little bit about inline templates, because right now we are creating a template with this component inside here, this here, backticks. And that's pretty awesome. And you're gonna see this a lot. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a save as a component, and I'm gonna do components hyphen inline like this .html. Okay, I'm gonna double click on that file, make sure that I'm there, because you know how my IDE plays around with me. All right. So let's say, for example, you don't want this to be here. What you can do is you don't even have to define a template there, but you can define an inline template here. Okay, so all you got to do is give it some type of attribute here called inline template like this. And now what's inside here becomes your data. Okay, see that? That's what inline template is. Pretty awesome. Now, let me show you how you can get data inside your component. For example, if we want a click event here, I can say click, and I want to activate some type of function, and I'm gonna say it's gonna be called display or something like that. Okay, we're not gonna be doing things here anymore because we have a component. Okay, in our component we have this data object that needs to return another object. Okay, and this is how we are going to be, actually this data is not a property, it is a function, and this is going to return data in our component here. But not only data, we can also get methods. Okay, so let's come back here, and we also have methods in there, and we're gonna get our display method. Okay, let's just go ahead and make sure that it's doing something. Console.log, and we're gonna call this hello. Okay, so now refresh, and when I click on it, it says hello. Okay, pretty awesome, right? So we are executing, we got an inline template, we got a click event there, and we got the methods in there. Really awesome. See you in the next lecture, guys. Take care. Welcome back, my dear students. So in this lecture, we're going to take a look at how we can communicate or take data into our components actually from the outside. So we saw how we were able to take data from the inside of a component, or actually execute some type of method from inside a component. Okay, we were able to do that. Now in this lecture here, we're going to take a look on how we can display data in our components and how to take data from the outside to the inside. So I'm going to do a save as on components inline, and I'm going to call this components data like this. Let's make sure that we go to that file, and it's not Dara. I call it Dara. I don't know Dara. Do you know Dara? Okay. Forget about my silly me, guys. All right, so I'm going to take this template out of here because we don't use templates like that. It's very rare that we do in Vue. And what we do is we use it here, or we use a separate file for it. So backticks, there we go. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put my backticks down like that and put that there. So now if I render this, you can still see the nonsense of hello there. All right, let's open our console real quick. Click it, and you can see that that still works. Okay, so now if we want data in that view, we can display data just like we used to before. Message, hello Edwin. okay? And now here we could display that message, right? Pretty awesome. Hello, Edwin. There we go. Really cool stuff, right? And then, of course, we get that click event happening. So we get everything the same here. So, like I mentioned before, how can we take data from the outside of our components, from here? Let's say we have an ID somewhere, and we need to take this ID and use it inside our components. Well, we bind it. We can use, let's say, for example, the data attribute here, and we can take an ID of, let's say, 34. We just use the bind, the bbind. And then here what we do is we create a props. We're not creating, this exists already. A props property with an array syntax, and we give it a name of whatever data we're taking in. So this attribute name is data, so I'm just gonna do that. Of course, we gotta use the same name here. So data, refresh, and voila. That's how we take data from the outside to the inside of our components. Awesome. So now you know how to display the internal data and also how to get data from the outside inside your components. Pretty awesome, guys. Take care and see you in the next lecture. Somebody say nesting? I think it was you. Okay. Yes, I'm talking to you, dear student. You listening to me. Today we're going to be learning about nesting components. It's going to be a pretty awesome lecture. Now, let's go ahead and create do a save as on this components data. And let's just do components. And what was the thing that we were doing? Nesting. Yes, good job, guys. Good job reminding me. All right. Let's go over here, guys. Don't worry about my silliness. I try to make you laugh and wake up. I know some of you are sleeping. So let's go ahead and create a component here. This component, let's give it some data. I'm gonna take that off. You know what? We don't need any of this stuff here. We do need a template, but we don't need props. So what I'm gonna do here in the template, one thing that I want you guys to understand in a template, if for some reason the code doesn't work for you, make sure you have some right type of root element first. Okay, a root element like this, like diff, and you know, the closing diff, whatever. And then inside your template, then you have the rest of the code. Okay, because this might not work if you don't have a root element. I know, I think I got stuck in that when I first started with Vue.js. That was some time ago. But anyway, so what I want to do is I want a list of posts. But before we do that, I want something like this. Let me show you the only thing I don't like about this backticks in my IDE is when I'm trying to indent my code really well, it doesn't work. All right. So I want something like that with, you know, the title, like post 1, you know, something coming from the database. But I want to use components, and I also don't have that data. So we need to have those two things. Okay. I don't like this. Let's just do this real quick. Oops. All right. There we go. All right. Okay. Each IDE has their own way of doing things. Anyway, so I'm going to take this off. I'm going to just leave one. Okay. And in the data, I'm going to create a post array like this. And in this post array, we're going to have different objects. They're each going to have an ID. And each of them is going to have some type of title. In this case, they're going to be post 1. And I'm going to do command. Well, I'm going to copy and paste all of them like this. Oops. That's enough. Give it a different name. and 5. This is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom! Explode. All right. So now what I want to do is I want to display a pose for each of these objects. We don't have a pose component. We do have a pose component which has the S, right? We do have that. But it would be nice to have another component just to hold this each individual post. Okay? So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to make this guy in charge of everything else. This post component is going to have the other one embedded inside. And we are going to be doing that right now. So instead of this li, okay, instead of the li being here, we are going to make it so it's available somewhere else. Okay, so it's going to be post, but we don't have that component yet, right? So we need to make that component. Let's come back to the end of this guy right here, and let's create that component, view that component, and it's going to be post like this. Now, that second parameter here, this is going to confuse you a little bit, but don't worry, I'm here for you. And it's going to be a template, but what we want for the template for this component, the only thing that we want this component to have to be is an li tag, okay? But now we need to tell Vue that whatever data comes in between this component, okay, it's this data right here. So how can we make sure that, okay, Vue knows that whatever comes here comes from this guy right here? Well, we use what's called slots, like this. Okay? And all it is that whatever data we're going to put in between these components, between here, is going to be the same data here. That's all slots are. Okay? So, now, what I want to do in this post is a v4. Okay, so I want to loop through my post. I want to create a post variable in post. Okay, and then I want to pull out the post title from it. I explained to you how everything works. I know this might look a little confusing, but I will explain it to you. Okay, so let's go back here and let's try to see if we get something here. Okay, post title, things are not coming out. Let's see the error that we get. I got a pretty good common idea as why. Right now it says view common is not a function. View, because I misspelled view component right here. You probably saw that. And now let's go back here and refresh, and now we can see each of our posts. Pretty awesome. Okay. Now, one warning here that it's giving us, and I wanted to tell you about this, is that when you're rendering, it's telling us that we should explicitly, okay, define the keys. Okay. So what they want, what Vue.js want, is for us to let them know about each individual component. Like what makes this component different than the rest, or I mean this individual object. What makes this object different from the rest of the objects? And if you notice, the IDs are different, right? So we can tell Vue, listen, the key of this component, and we can bind it like this. The key of this component, because it's expecting that key binding, it's expecting it. The value of that is the post ID. That is the difference between each of these objects. So now Vue is not going to have a problem with us. They're not even going to give us any warning or anything. See that? Awesome. So now let's recap on what we did. Okay? All right. So we created the main component post, right? We gave it a root element. We got a UL okay, another list here. And we have this post component that we created down here. And this post components template is just an LI, or list item. Okay. Now we inserted the slots here. This is a predefined element or tag in Vue.js to define any data that goes in between the component itself. Okay, we can create slots anywhere. Okay, it's just a way of saying, listen, whatever data you put here in between me, it's the data that should go in between here. Okay, because remember, we're using the slots right here. If I take this off and I do refresh, now the slots are not going to have anything. I mean the LI, because right now we can't put any data here unless we tell Vue.js that we want data. The only way to tell Vue that we want data is by putting slots. Right now, if I put this data in this template, in this component, that's the data that it's going to show. You understand? So we need to put slots to make that data dynamic and to tell Vue.js that is this data that we want, the one in between the opening and the closing post tag. Okay? And then we're using the for, okay, to render each of these objects. We're making a dynamic variable in post, in the array post, and we're giving it a key, an identifier, to let Vue.js know that each of these objects are different and it should treat them differently. So we're giving Vue.js more information and it doesn't complain, and then we're using this variable here, dynamic variable, to pull out the title of each object, and we're getting those values there. Super simple, guys. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Welcome back, my dear students. So in this lecture here, in this first lecture, I'm going to be, explaining a couple things that we're going to be needing to create really cool projects with Vue. So in order for us to create really cool Vue.js applications with separate components like Angular or React, we need a couple tools, okay? So the first tool that we need to have, and you need to do that with Angular and React and all that stuff, is to have some type of manager that will allow us to download packages, JavaScript packages, right? For that, for those of you that know about it, we have Node, right? So if we go to node.js.org, okay, nodejs.org, you can download this runtime for JavaScript. Node.js, for those of you that don't know, allows us to run JavaScript in the server, or have, a server built with JavaScript. Okay, so this is what a lot of developers use to create what's called a mean stack. Okay, MongoDB, Express, Node, and Angular. Okay, this is the stack, one of the stacks. So download this. I already have it. I'm not going to download it. Download it and set all the default features when you download it, when you use an installer. Make sure you have that, and that's going to bring along the npm, Node Package Manager, that we are going to be using to download the CLI. So let's come back here, and this is the CLI. Now the CLI is going to allow us to, create a Vue project that's going to have all the stuff that we need to make really cool applications. It's going to have separate components capability. It's going to have the Node modules folder, or available to us, so that way we can include all the packages with npm. It's going to have a lot of things, and I'm going to go through the structure of that Vue.js application once he builds it. Now Vue, the CLI here, the program that we're going to be downloading with npm, is also going to have commands that we can execute and make things a lot easier for us. Okay, but as you can see here, let's see if I'm in the right page though. Actually, I'm not in the right page. Let me go to the right page. All right, right here. Okay, Vue.js, that's github.com, Vue.js/Vue-CLI. You can see that we need to use npm. Okay, once you download Node, use npm installed -g to, create this globally to install it in your computer. Okay? Once you do that, then you can create a project. You can see here that it says view create my project. This is the 3.0, and let's go back here real quick. All right, so now let's go. Once you have Node installed, make sure that you go and open your command prompt. For some of you using Windows, I recommend downloading Git. Git is a version control little software that's pretty cool, and it also has a shell that we can use. They're very similar to the Mac operating system. Okay, so you download that and open it up, and you're gonna see like a little terminal like this. It's gonna be black, and it's gonna be better than the command prompt. So once you download it, make sure that you have it installed, have Node installed, and you do Node V, okay, in your command prompt or terminal in the Mac. It's gonna give you the version number. Okay, of course npm is also installed when you download Node. Okay, and you can just check for Vue as well, but for Vue we need to download it first, right? I already have it, so mine's gonna work out of the box, but I'm gonna download it. And for those of you using a command prompt or Git in the Windows operating system, make sure that, you know, for some of you, I think it's going to ask you to, it's going to block access to it. You can try it. You can try this command on your command prompt. If it doesn't work and it gives you an error, right click on that command prompt and run another shell like this as an administrator. Okay. And for us Mac users, make sure that you run as an administrator as well with sudo. Put your password, okay, and that should install it globally. We're gonna find out in a minute if it's installed. All you got to do right now is do view just like that, and it's gonna give you a whole bunch of ways to use it. Okay, and right now it's telling us, hey, listen, you can create a project by doing this command, create. You can add a plugin, you can invoke, inspect, build, init. This init command is going to allow us to use some type of template, because if we do view create, that's not going to have everything we need. That's just to create like a really simple, plain application with nothing in it. We need a couple other things to make this work. So with Vue.js, in order for us to create like components like Angular and React, we need Webpack to help us bundle all the JavaScript code. Okay, and he also uses Babel. Okay, Babel like this, Babel. Okay. All right, so he also uses this a plugin for Webpack. So Babel is good for modern or new ES6 features. That's going to process all the ES6 features into, is going to transpile the new features into ES5, into the older features, so that way all browsers can understand the JavaScript that we are writing, okay? Because we write a lot of new JavaScript when we're doing Vue.js, okay? So, but don't worry about downloading Webpack or Babel. That's the reason why we're using the CLI, because the CLI is going to have all that for us, okay? So let's go real quick and use that. And if I do, let's create a folder right here on the desktop real quick. Make sure that you download everything I told you to, and make sure that Node is installed. I'm gonna create a folder called Vue Apps, and I'm gonna go to that folder. You can follow me. It's the same thing for Windows. So open your command prompt and you do CD. If you're using Git, and the little it's not tilde, it's the backtick or tilde key by the escape key, and then you do capital desktop, press tab to autocomplete, and then go to Vue Apps. There we go. And in here you do Vue init, and then the template name, and then whatever project you want this to be called. I'm gonna call it demo, and it says Vue requires a add-on, global add-on. Get this issue here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use this command here. I don't know, and let's try that. All right, look at that. That's working. Okay, just try this command, view hyphen init. I don't know for what reason view init like this is not working. So I'm gonna press enter, enter, enter as my name already, and enter. View router, you know what? No. I'm gonna show you how we can play around with that later. And lint, no, no, no. And it says use npm. I'm gonna press enter on that, and it's going to finish installing that project. Okay, on the next lecture I will explain to you the structure and everything and how it works. Okay, remember to install those files that I told you about. Okay, the node, the git bash, the shell. Okay, so that way you can make things work. All right, so now if you click on that folder, you should have this a whole bunch of folders and files. Let's go ahead and open that up in some type of editor or IDE. Okay. View apps, and then I'm gonna open it up in my WebStorm right here. Make this a little smaller. Okay, and you should have something like this. On the next lecture, I'm going to go through all the structure here, almost all of it, because we don't need to know all of it, but I'm going to go through the main things of the structure, and I'm going to explain it to you so you have a better understanding. See you in the next lecture. Welcome back, my dear students. So, in this lecture, I'm going to go over some of the things, that this CLI does for us with this file structure. And I'm going to go through the file structure here. So, we created this project with the CLI, a command line interface, and it created all these folders for us. Now, keep in mind that it configured a lot of things for us as well. For example, it configured Babel, and it also configured Webpack. Remember, Webpack is going to bundle all our files, and Webpack is a program that is going to have other plugins, like the View Loader in this case, which is going to be responsible for, the View Loader is going to be responsible, I'm going to show it to you right now. Right here, the CSS loader, the View Loader right here. This plugin for Webpack is going to be responsible for compiling the view components. Our components are going to be in a separate file now. They're going to have a .view extension. I'm going to show them to you in a minute. And this View Loader is going to be responsible for, processing that file. And we also have the Babel, okay? So the Babel loader is going to help us transpile the ES6 JavaScript features into ES5 so other browsers can understand it. So these are the main plugins that Webpack is going to have. Webpack is doing a lot of things behind the scenes, guys, a lot of things. So once you have this folder, once you are inside this folder, you can see that I am, just execute npm install, okay? And then once you do npm installed, you're going to do npm run dev. That is going to run our development small server, all right? It's going to act like a server. It's going to allow us to see our project in the browser. Okay, just like that. Oops, what in the world did I do? Just because I didn't want to type. I'm becoming so lazy. Let's come back here and you can see our server right here. You can see our application. Okay? So, real quick, we can also run npm run build. These are the scripts right here in this package.json. For those of you that don't know about npm is going to have a package.json with all our dependency, a reference to all our dependencies that we are going to be needing. Okay, it's gonna download all those dependencies inside this node modules folder. And then we can do imports and refer to those dependencies, those packages in our program. You're gonna see that later on. Okay, so when we do npm run, we are executing these scripts right here. Right now we're gonna be executing build. Build is gonna run this file with node, okay? npm run build is going to create, you're gonna see this in a minute, All right, don't make me look bad in front of my students. Let's see what it's gonna do. All right, I'm gonna pause it and come back, guys. All right, npm it's build. Let's try this again. I don't know why my IDE is playing tricks on me like this. All right, npm run build like this. There we go. Now we're gonna get this folder, and it's going to be a distribution folder. Now what it's doing is it's grabbing everything in your application and it's compiling it. Okay, it's grabbing everything that it needs. And let me see if I can find the Webpack config here. I thought it was inside here. There we go. This one here, this template, and each template is going to have the Webpack config and a different file in different folders. All right, not every template is the same. Remember that the template that we are using, that we based our project on, is called Webpack. We also have other templates like Webpack Simple. Okay, there are other templates that we can use. Anyway, so in the Webpack configuration file, you're gonna find that it says it's gonna say all this, it's gonna have all these requires, but the main thing that it's going to be doing is going to go inside the main.js, which is our main file. Okay, it's located right here. Okay, it's gonna grab the information. This is the component, the app component. Okay, if you go to index, this app, okay, right here, this thing here, it's right here, is we're getting injected, we're getting this, it's picking that up, right, with the element that we learned before, and it's injecting this component, which is becoming a tag element, okay, a HTML element like this. In reality, that's becoming something like that, but it's being injected. Okay, that's just a little newer configuration there. See that? That's going to be the template. It's going to be injected. That's what it's doing. Okay, and of course, once it injects that component, that's the app component, app.view, which is right here. Okay, now you can see the component is app.view. This is a new extension. That's why we need the view loader in Webpack. Okay. Each component, each file is going to be a component, and it's going to have this template here to have our HTML, and then it's going to also have a script tag that is going to always be exporting something out, an object. Of course, if you want to use other components or anything else inside that component, you need to import it right here below, right inside the script tags. And then we're also going to have our styles. So in this case, we are always going to be styling our components right here. Let's say if you put scoped, this attribute here is going to allow us to have these styles only apply to our component. So every component has its own template, or every file has its own template, its own scripts, and its own styles. Okay, and every time we create a component, we give it a .view extension. Got it? Super simple, guys. And the only file that when we go online that is getting executed on the browser is when we do npm run build. It's going to be this index right here. And this index, of course, has connected these files, the CSS and the JavaScript. So every time we run npm run build, it builds everything that we have written in our development application. It puts it in this folder, and we can go ahead and drop that folder inside some type of hosting, and that's what's going to execute our files. Okay, that's what's going to show in our browser. Go to the main.js right here. One thing that I wanted to show you is that this is the same thing right here. This import is the same thing as having the script tag. Okay, remember the view script tag that we got from the CDN in their website? This is the same thing as having that. And of course, this is importing the whatever is getting exported from the app component, okay, from the app view. Okay, remember that this is what's getting exported out right here, this app, okay, right here. And that variable is going to have our app, and we're passing it down to component, okay, and that's creating our component. All right. So anyway, I think that's the main things that you guys need to learn, for what's happening. Okay. Just a little recap. If you want to listen to it, you can. If not, just go to the next video. Okay. So we're using Webpack, WebViewLoader, Babel, and some other plugins to compile our files from ES6 to ES5, and to also, convert our .view files. Okay. And we have a .view file right here, actually. Our .view files into JavaScript stuff and CSS. Is going to be, the ViewLoader is going to be doing a couple things. Once it does all that stuff, we can run npm run build, right? And take all that stuff into our CSS and JavaScript, and then link everything in that index.html. It's just super simple, guys. It's just doing a lot of things behind the scenes, okay? And this, of course, is configuration files that we don't need to worry about right now. This is all our dependencies right here. Okay, some configuration files for production and development. Okay, and our build file, where it keeps all the builds. Anyway, thank you so much, guys, for watching, and I'll see you in the next lecture. All right, welcome back, my dear students. So it's time for us to start creating a component. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is right here in source, go to components and right click on it, or whatever you want to do, and let's create a component called post.view. Remember, this is going to be the component. Like I mentioned before, each of them is going to have a template, and you need to write this tag, and it's going to have a script, and it's also going to have some type of style like that. Okay, so the template needs to have some type of root element unless they change it in the future. Sometime I'm recording this video, it still does need some type of root element. And I'm just going to say hello from here. I'm going to write a script here. What we need to have is some type of export here. Okay, so we're going to say export default. And in here, we can have whatever we want. We want to export data, or we want to export methods, whatever we want to export, we can export it right here. So usually we export the template, but we have the template up here, so we don't need to do that no more. Now it's the data, and we can export it doing something like that, right? But we're going to be using the new syntax of ES6. Going to take advantage of that to make it clean, and we're going to be returning a function. Okay, so that's the first thing. And when we return this function, well, this function is going to return an object, actually, like that. Okay, so that's how it usually is. We got the template, we got the scripts, and everything we want in between, right? Well, we got the styles too. But now, in order for this component to work, you have to give it a selector. We haven't given it a selector. We need to give it a selector, and we need to register it. So the way we give it a selector is by accessing this name property here, and let's call this post like this. I'm going to call it post like this example, because I want to show you something. Okay, now this is going to be, of course, the element, okay, that we are exporting out of here, right? So we need to go to app view to register that element, so that way we can show it. Because let me show you in our demo. Let me see if I have it right here. This component is the app view. Okay, that's where everything is getting. This is the main component here, app view. This is where we need to register the other components, so that way we can show it. For example, this component right here, hello world, is right here. That's the component that's actually on that page. You see that it says ecosystem here, and if you look at it, it says ecosystem somewhere right here. So this is the hello world application. Add view is just like a placeholder type of guy that is going to take all the rest of the components. So we need to register a component. I'm going to register right here. I'm going to change this to the name of our file, which is going to be posts. We don't need a view. And here we give it the name that we're using, which is going to be, oops, let me not be lazy and write it down. pose example. And down here, I'm gonna say pose example. Now here's the thing, when you want to write your tag, your element tag, or your HTML tag, well, it's this custom tag, right? You can write it in different ways. You can write it like this. Now let's make sure that we're running our npm run dev. Okay. All right, so you can have your element just written just like that. Okay, and if you notice, that's very similar to what we got here. Now this one is strange, right? This is just one element here. So that's another way of writing it. Let's come back here, let's refresh, and you can see that down here says hello, right? You see that? Hello. That's what we are. We can take all that out from, we can take this hello world out from here. This is supposed to refresh, and now you can see that it says hello. Great stuff. Let's take this image out of there too. Come back there. Hello. Nice, right? And this is refreshing. This is the hot reloading. Webpack is actually helping us do all that stuff with the plugins. So this is one way of writing your custom element, but you can also write it like this: pose hyphen example. Like that. And now when it reloads, you can see that that still works. Okay. And now that's pretty cool. Now you can also take all this out, do a forward slash here. Let's cross our fingers. That is reloading on the back. And as you can see, that works as well. My preferred way of is actually having this. Okay. Now you have to register. You can't be using this type of syntax here. As you can see, that's not allowed. You don't want to do that. You can use the camel case here and use the kebab or kebab. I think it's called kebab. I know how to say it in Spanish, but I can't say it in English. Style. Okay. With a hyphen. Pretty awesome. So now that's how you register component, guys. See you in the next lecture. Welcome back, my dear students. So what I want to do is I want to actually do a little bit more complex stuff here for you, just to give you guys an example how all of this is put together and works. So what I want to do is, install Bootstrap. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to do Control C, clear my terminal. I'm going to do npm install Bootstrap. This is just going to help us style our HTML and CSS a lot better. It's just going to have a lot of classes for us to use, which is pretty cool. So this is going to be installed in the node modules folder, and we can use the app.view, this main component here, to actually let's take this scope out of here. This is come back here, and I'm going to do an import. This is just going to import the styles from the node modules folder, or from whatever I want. In this case, it's going to be importing it from there to here. Okay, so we need to go to that folder here to make it work. So let's go out and more modules and Bootstrap distribution CSS bootstrap.min. Okay, so now we need to make sure that this is working, guys. Let's make sure that you run npm dev, run dev here. And let's go to our posts and let's create some type of button here. Button.btn.btn primary. This is just a class, a Bootstrap class, to make this look nice. And I'm just going to call it click. So it's going to have a btn and then another class of btn-primary. And let's go to our, I don't have it there. Let's go to our demo real quick. There we go. So it looks like Bootstrap is working. Awesome. So now what I want to do is check. I'm going to put this in another. What I want to do is I want to check for some type of navigation. Bootstrap navigation. Bootstrap nav. And this is Bootstrap 4.0. I think this is gonna do for us, right? Something like that. Let's copy this. Let's go and let's see where we can put this navigation. This is gonna be navigation for the whole thing. So I'm gonna go to app.view, and right here in my app, above everything, I'm gonna place that navigation. Okay, because I want this navigation to be available to everything, to everybody, to every page or whatever I'm going to be creating in my site. Now this is going to, we have some type of margin in our app. Let's see. This margin top right here is messing things up. Let's take this style out of here. We don't need that. Right? Come back here. And there we go. This is not working, of course, because we will have to import our JavaScript files. Okay. Now, if you want to add the JavaScript, you can go ahead and add it right here if you want. Not there, but your last file could have a CDM somewhere. Okay. Or to work on it, you might want to add it in the, let's see, right here. You can add it per component if you like on top. Okay. You can import it by component, or let's see, where is it? I think I lost it. Right here, right here. You can add it here before you end the body of this, so that way you can play around with it in your JavaScript. Okay. But anyway, we're adding it right here so we can play a little bit around. This is not a complete Vue.js course. I just want to give you an idea how this is done. Okay. So once we have Bootstrap and we have a navigation, let's go back to what we got here. Okay. Now we need some type of data. Okay. And we are in the post right here. So if I create some type of property here, like this, okay, and we want to display it, let's come back here, ID, let's just say 1, title, post 1, I'm just gonna leave it like this. And 4, 3, and 4. Okay, so that's ready. And get a table or something for our Bootstrap. Bootstrap table. Again, this is a 4.0 Bootstrap table. I'm just going to take this striped one here, and I'm going to add it to my post. Let's come back here, and we have this table here. Let me make this smaller. Okay, let's put some margin on top of our table. I believe we can, and we will, add a margin right here. Say MT4. That's margin top. Let's see if that works. All right, that did not work. MT-4. There we go. That works. That just gives a little, and let's give the side a little padding too. So this root element, let's see if we can put a class here. Call this container. This is all Bootstrap classes. Just make things look nice. Okay. All right. So we're done creating our navigation, our table here, and we need to start displaying some data. So how can we do that? Well, we can say v-if, and let's actually take the other tables out of here, the other rows, table rows. Okay, and our heading is going to be an ID and title. We should actually have a body, right? Let's have a body. Why not? I have a body. Do you have a body? And let's come back here and say, well, we want to display the ID. What is this? Well, let's first create this is going to be post.id, and you're going to see that in a minute when we create our loop. And post.title. And post.body. All right, and here we create a loop. Actually, nope, that's not where we create the loop. We create the loop right here, B4. And we're gonna say post. In post, we're gonna give this guy the key like we done before, post.id, and sorry guys, I had to pause the video. I had somebody come in the room. So let's come back here and let's create a body real quick, just because I want this to have some type of data here. Make sure we put this here. I'm just gonna put a little space there. Okay, let's organize this a little bit. Put a space right there. All right, that looks good, even though there's a lot of jargon there, a lot of stuff that we don't want. ID. All right, that looks good. Let's see what our servers have. Localhost 80. There we go. That's how it looks right now. So on the next lecture, we're gonna actually create this a little better in a different way. And I'll see you then, guys. Take care. Back, my dear students. So what I want to do is I want to replace this static data with maybe some API data. Okay, so we need to actually look for that API. I believe, and I don't know if they're still working. I mean, you know, after a while, these websites will be replaced. So look for maybe just to be safe, you know, API dev data or something like that, or HTTP like that. Okay, and in that way you can find some places where you can test your HTTP request. So we're gonna be replacing our static data with some dynamic data, okay, with some data from an API. And you can also look for fake online REST API for developers. Look for that search term on Google and you can find something else if JSON placeholder is not available. Okay, this is the website, and we want to make a request to this API right here to get all this data. Okay, as you can see, this has a user ID, title, and body. So let's make sure that our table has that. User ID, and I copy that. And I think it has title and body. And what I'm going to do with this data here, I'm going to leave that as an empty array. I wanted to show you how to do it statically, just in case you guys are not able to connect to this API. We're going to be using a HTTP, which is going to be awesome, okay, for you guys to learn this extra stuff. I'm just adding things to this course so that way you guys can learn more about Vue.js. Remember, this is a crash course. This is not a complete course. So I don't want to see a bad review saying that I didn't include something here and you're upset. This is a crash course. You're supposed to show you the main components of Vue.js. I think we already did that. I'm just creating extra things here for you, okay? So be appreciative, guys. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a HTTP request, but before we do that, we need to download some type of package to do that because we don't have that. So I'm going to do npm. I'm going to download Axios right here, this package. npm Okay, this is an HTTP client, promise based, so you can use promises, which is really awesome. Okay, so npm install Axios, and it's super easy to use. Okay, let's download it. Keep in mind that my speed is like 150 megabytes per second in this office here that I'm using. My house is 1,000, so if it takes a while for you, don't worry. Or maybe you guys have a faster speed than me. So what I'm gonna do in after my data function here, I'm going to attach this created, whatchamacallit, lifecycle console.log. Remember about the life cycles of Vue.js. So Vue.js, just in case you guys, life cycle. This is a life cycle. I think this is just some type of forum here. But anyway, these are life cycle hooks. It's somewhere in here. Okay, you can find it. I'm pretty sure the documentation has it somewhere. Life cycle diagram right here. Okay. Before created, you can hook into this to do different things. Before mount it. So in this created life cycle, let's see if I can hook into that. npm run dev to run my server. Okay. Let's go back here. And it's saying disconnected. You can see that it is connecting here. All right. So we are connected to that life cycle. And so once our component is created and everything is going, we're going to make a Axios. Actually, we need to import Axios to make sure that it works. So right here, this is going to be a new thing for you. We're going to import Axios from the no modules folder. Remember that when you do it like this, with no dot / right here like this, you are importing from the no modules folder without the, when you do dot this, it means that you are importing from your local directory somewhere. Okay, keep that in mind. So we are importing Axios. Now we can use it. Let's do Axios. And it's a get that we're doing because we want some data. And now we need to put the address as the first parameter. And let's get the address of that data. I'm going to get the address right there on the URL. I'm going to put some quotes here to put it in strings. Then we're going to get a promise, right? Then, and it's going to be post. Like this. I'm using ES6 syntax here. Okay. This can also be a function. You can also do it like this, just in case you see it somewhere. Okay. Or like this. I'm using ES6. We are returning just one value from there. We're just going to do that. And then I'm going to assign this to my post array. And what I want to assign is the post.data. That's the object that I want. You can also always do a console.log on what you're getting here. You can do a console.log here and see where you have to pull the data from. I know that I'm pulling the data from this data property here, or object, I believe. Okay. That data array, or I think it's an array. It's this big guy right here. But anyway, let's see if that's working already. Refresh. All right, it's not working because post is not defined. I misspelled this somewhere. It says post right here. All right, now let's go ahead and there we go. Beautiful, guys. Now we're getting data from an API, which is really awesome, right? Look at that. You guys did not think that I was going to show you how to do this, right? In this lecture here, in this course. Even though this is a crash course, I'm including a lot of stuff here for you guys. I want to include the user ID here because we're missing that. User ID. I think, there we go. And think is the ID and then the user ID. The ID, user ID, title, and body. And it has an extra. There we go. There we go. That looks a lot better here. Nice, 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 nice. Let's work on the navigation. Let me show you how you guys can do that as well. We're not gonna go through all the rest of the Vue.js stuff because it's a lot. This is a crash course, but it's a lot of other things that you guys can learn about Vue.js. I'm showing you the main components. Like I said before, this is just a crash course, so to get you going with Vue.js. See you in the next lecture. Welcome back, my dear students. I hope you guys are having a lot of fun. Let's continue with our lecture. Now, what I want to do in this particular lecture is build some type of navigation system. I think one of the main components of Vue.js is the router. So let's get to it. So with the router, we need to download. So turn off your server, Control C. Let's do npm installed Vue router like this, Vue-router. Okay, it's going to install that package. And the Vue router, what is it going to allow us to do is to switch the data. Okay, every time we click on a link or we go to a different URL, the JavaScript is going to detect that URL and we're going to associate that URL with a component. So it's going to switch our component. So if I click on the home, that JavaScript is going to detect that URL, is going to detect that string, and it's going to take me to that component if I associate it with it. Okay, whatever component has the home data. That's why it doesn't need to refresh the page because it's JavaScript. It's just switching data. It's not refreshing or making a new request. Okay, so let's clear this out and let's make sure that we run npm run dev. And let's go to our main.js file. This is where we are going to be registering our router. This is the main file, guys. Okay. So we're going to do import Vue router with an uppercase Vue and then the second word uppercase as well. The second router from the Node.js folder. And that's why we don't use the dot forward slash because it's in the node modules folder. Okay, sorry. So now that we have the router, we need to tell Vue to use it. Let's use it right here, and we pass it in here, Vue router. There we go. I'm gonna put a semicolon even though it's not needed. I like to put semicolons on when I'm finished. Okay. So now let's construct our routes. We're gonna contain our routes in a constant, which is, the reason why we use constants, and this is a new ES6 feature, is so the value doesn't change. The value is not going to change. You can use a constant. It's the same thing as a variable. I mean, as a declaration of let and var, but it's not global like var. It's not the same thing as var. It's similar because it's a variable, but it's constant. It's not the value. You cannot change the value. So we have an array and we have an object here, and each object is going to have a path property. We tell it where we want our component to be, and then we tell it the component that is going to be loading with a component property, and we want it to load the post component, but we have to import that. So let's go ahead and import that up top. And post from, this is our own file, so it's in components, post. Oh, the semicolon thing, I'm so used to it. I'm gonna leave it off. Okay. I'm learning, guys. I'm learning myself to not put the semicolon. It's a bad habit that I got. Okay. It's telling me that I cannot resolve files. So if I do view, let's see if it takes that or no. Let's see, components and posts. It should work. Let me see. Actually, let me see. This is actually in the same. No, it's not in another directory. It's not in the components directory. Is it? Yeah, it is. Sorry about that. It is. It is in the components directory. I just can't find it for some reason. Oh, we're missing an S. Still. No, no, no. It's there, guys. It's there. There we go. Let's just do it like this. Even though it should work like this. Okay, let's just let's do it like this. I think it's not gonna work the other way. This is actually Babel using these features here. So anyway, we'll find out if it works without it. I thought it don't need it. That's what I thought. So let's check it. Now the next thing to do would be to register it down here, but we need to do one more thing. All right, let's create another variable here. Let's instantiate the view router, and we're gonna pass in our routes to this guy right here, and our routes. To a property called routes, we're going to pass our routes, okay? Don't confuse that. It's a property here that it's supposed to have, and we're going to pass our routes. Now this view router right here, or this router constant, we got to pass it in right here. Now we can pass it in like this, or we can use the new ES6 shorthand by just doing that. And the reason why we can do that is because they both have the same name. Okay, guys, remember that I have an ES6 course, just in case you guys want to get up to date with that. Anyway, this should work. Put the semicolon there. All right, so we are, right now, if you saw how that changed, go rewind the video a little bit. You can see that / and the / That means it has changed. So in the next lecture, we'll finish this up and show how we can click on our navigation and switch to components. Okay, but that hash symbol that we had in the URL, the hash or the number symbol, whatever you want to call it, means that our router is installed. We're going to make sure that it works 100% on the next lecture. Thank you, guys. Let's go ahead and let's take all these things out. Let's go ahead and create some type of navigation here, okay? So that way we can switch to components. But let's first create another component. That way we can switch our navigation, all right? Right now, this, if we go to this path right here, is going to take us to our home. But let's build another component, for example, like a contact component or something like that. Let's just call it home component, right? And all right, home component. Actually, I created an empty file there. Silly me. I want to create something else than home, okay? Because we're displaying our post at home. So let's just call this contact dot view, okay? And now with this component, we don't need a lot of markup or anything like that. We just need some type of template, because that's the only thing that we are going to be displaying, right? And the root and the contact works just like that. You don't need to put all these spaces, okay? And let's go register that component. So let's go to app view, and we're going to copy this guy right here. Contact and contact right here. There's one last thing that we need to do, guys, to make our router work, okay? But I'll show you right now what it is. Contact. Okay, so we got our component register and it should be working now, okay? Now, in order to make this work, we need to make everything more dynamic. And when I say dynamic, I mean that we need to tell our main application, our main component, that we don't want this data here to be, okay, this is our main navigation. We don't want to show just the post example here. We want to show everything, okay? So we want to show anybody that asks for a component. Anybody that goes to the URL and asks for a component, we need to make sure that this data here is dynamic. It's not just one component. And to make this data dynamic, we need to use another directive here, or an custom tag here called view, like this, router view. Okay, now our view app is going to detect this guy right here, a router view, and is going to apply things dynamically into this field right here. Okay, so in order for this to work, let's go right here and create some type of link. Another thing that I'm going to teach you in this lecture, it's how to create a link with a router view. Because right now, if you go here and you say, okay, I want you to take me to contact, and you create a regular link and you say contact, and let's go back to our main. Let's create another route for that, and this is going to be contact. Some people, when people visit contact, we're gonna load the contact module. Now we need to import that on top. Remember, in the main.js, where you import, where you do most of the registration stuff. So we import this there, and we say contact, like that. Okay, so now this should work. Let's go back here. Let's make sure that this refreshes. If we say contact on top, you see contact works. But we had to refresh. If I click here, you see that it's refreshing and it's taking me to the home page. Let's go back to our navigation, which is in app.view. This is supposed to be taking me to the home and the contact to our contact page. So let's click here. Let's refresh. Click here, home, contact. See, something is going on here. So let's go and play around with this and tell it to actually send us to the contact component, not to the contact, not to make a request to the browser. So the way we do that is we enclose all that. Actually, we don't have to enclose it. We need to create another custom element here called router link. And this by itself is going to be a link, an anchor tag. Okay, this is going to create an anchor tag. So right now, if I say contact, I'm going to show you. I'm going to take this out of here. I'll show you when this refreshes, and it's supposed to do this automatically. There we go. This contact button is supposed to be somewhere here, guys. Okay. It's supposed to. All right, so I guess we have to write the other parts to make it dynamic. Okay, so I'm gonna give it a class of navlink. Navlink, just to make it. Let's see if it shows right here. It's supposed to show. Okay, it's not showing yet. Let's now we got to use this attribute here called to, and we use the colon to bind it, right? And then here in between these quotes, I'm gonna put single quotes to make sure that it goes, because you can write an expression there, guys. Okay, that's why we got to write single quotes here, because it's a string that we're sending in. This is static data. You can also send dynamic data through this to attribute here, or directive here, if you see colon. So let's come back here, see if this works now. Come on. There we go. So we had to actually write the colon TO to make this work. That sucks. I thought it was going to work without it. But anyway, so contact now. Let's wait. There we go. And we click on it, it takes us to our component contact. Look at how fast that is. Now the home is not working, so we need to fix that one. So I'm gonna copy this whole thing and place it right there. I'm gonna replace this to home, and the string here is going to be this little. Let's let this refresh. I got no patience. Contact. Boom. See how fast that is? That it's beautiful, guys. Beautiful. Okay. I hope you guys are satisfied with this crash course. And if you have any questions, always ask in the discussion or send me an email to edwin@edwindiaz.com. Remember that I have all the courses in JavaScript. I have a whole bunch of JavaScript courses to teach you JavaScript if you need to learn it. TypeScript courses, Angular courses. So, you know, I'm there. If you need any help with anything, guys, don't hesitate. I'm just a person like you, and I'm very humble. So, you know, if I get thousands of messages all the time, thousands in my email, and I get hundreds literally every day from one platform. So, but I always answer the question. If it's 24 or 48 hours, I'm here for you. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next lecture or the next course. Take care. Congratulations, my dear students. I'm so glad that you were able to finish the course successfully. You are an achiever. Now, you might be asking yourself where to go next. Well, I'm going to recommend for you to actually learn a backend technology if you don't know. And if you know, I still recommend Node.js. Okay? Even if you know Node.js, I recommend for you to actually take one that will help you build some type of project, something that you can learn lots from it, okay? Because Node.js is a really cool JavaScript runtime environment that's going to help you build better JavaScript applications, and they are going to be super fast. Now, for those of you that are taking this course with me right here on this platform, I want to give you a discount. Here's a discount code right here. So when you're about to shop for this course, you don't have to pay $200 for it. You can just pay $10 US dollars right now for a temporary time, for a limited time, and you're gonna get this course for this price. And the code is vue-node, and you can also get this discount if you go to edwindiaz.com/node. Okay? Going to that link there is going to give you a discount for getting this course for $10. And you might be asking yourself, what are we going to be doing in this course? Well, the project that we got there is building a complete CMS system with a login system. We're going to do a lot of cool things in there. You're going to learn how to build a whole application using Node.js from scratch. So even if you don't know anything about Node.js, you're going to become a Node.js developer when you finish this course. Now, lastly, I want to, ask you to leave a review for this course. So if this course benefited you in any way, please don't forget to leave me those 5 big stars. If it's not 5 stars, let me know before reviewing, so that way I can fix it. Give me a chance. Reviews are super important, guys. They're very important for us developers. It will affect us, and not only developers, instructors like me. It will affect us emotionally. Okay, and it will affect us financially sometimes. Lastly, and this is the last time, thank you so much for actually being here in this course, for spending the time to study with me and give me your time. And I really enjoy creating this course for you. May God bless you. May the universe give you all the energy you need to succeed in life. And if you have any questions, let me know and I'm here for you. Thank you so much.